What's going on, you guys? Welcome on back to the channel. Now, as we all know, chapter 1154 of One Piece just dropped, and within this chapter, we finally got the reveal of Rocks D Xebec. This is a reveal that I personally have been waiting years for. I've always seen the silhouette, but I always wanted to see the man behind the silhouette, and we now finally got him. And then we learned something even crazier, which is the fact that he is the father of Blackbeard. Finding out that Rocks is the father of Blackbeard puts so many different things into perspective now. I can even go back to all the way with Luffy and Blackbeard's first meeting, where he was like, it's they, not him. So dude, there's just so many things now that you can put into perspective because of this reveal. Everything with Whitebeard, everything. There's so much. But the one thing that I want to focus on now is the parallels between Rocks and now between Blackbeard. Because now I think that because of this reveal, and because now we know that he is the father of Blackbeard, something is going to happen that I don't think anybody has anticipated within this story. We're about to get something crazy in the final war that nobody thought was see coming. As we know, Rocks in this chapter, we find out he straight up killed an admiral, something that we never thought was even remotely feasible within the narrative. He killed an admiral and he did it kind of effortlessly. So, how does this harken back to Blackbeard? Well, I think Blackbeard is going to be in a similar situation, but I don't think he's going to kill an admiral. I think he's going to take the one person that Luffy, like, especially now because in Elbath, who Luffy respects and admires the most, he's going to kill Shanks before Luffy can give him the hat back. And let me tell you why that makes the most sense for the narrative. Luffy, throughout the entire story, and it's only become more reinforced now, is somebody that wants to become the greatest pirate because Shanks directly saved his life and put him back on the path to being a pirate. Right? Luffy always wanted to be a pirate, but he never really knew how to get to that goal. Shanks put him on that path, and now oh man, now Shanks could potentially die because of this, right? So first things first, I want to talk about why this could really make sense. First and foremost, Shanks essentially was liberated by Luffy from by saving him because the beast of the village straight up just ate his arm and ate the marking, and with that, Shanks was liberated from like the God Knights. He was straight up liberated from them. Why does that matter? Because Shanks essentially was liberated by Luffy, if Shanks is now directly killed by Blackbeard, and because now you have to think about this, like Shanks is also Luffy's mentor figure, right, in this story. And what have I always said about mentor figures within narratives like this? The mentor character is usually killed off to further the development and growth of the protagonist. Now, people don't really expect Shanks to be that mentor figure because he's not really in the story much. But I think that's deliberate from Oda, right? Nobody really considers Shanks the mentor figure to Luffy because he's not in the narrative so much. He's pretty much absent. That's I feel like that's deliberate from Oda because we're always like, why isn't Shanks in the story? Because Shanks really only shows up in the story for big moments like everything at the war, everything in Wano. He only shows up for big moments, and if you notice, they're specific to Luffy. Every big moment that he shows up at is indirectly involved with Luffy, right? The liberation of Wano, everything at Marineford. Shanks always gets involved with things that are involved with Luffy, but he never directly sees him. So that's a thing I never really noticed until now. He really only goes to these things that are involved with Luffy because he wants to make sure the person that liberated him doesn't die prematurely before he can accomplish his goal. And that is honestly peak if that's what Oda's doing. If that's how Oda has been writing Shanks all along, I would love that. I think that would be so cool. But And now that we know, or now that we think we know, that the reason why Shanks has been so directly involved in these big world events is because of Luffy and his wanting to save him. If he's taken out by Blackbeard, that's like the big ultimate like saving, or not saving. It's the big ultimate like way of it, or way of forgiving, not forgiving, how am I, what am I saying, it's the it's his way of paying it forward to Luffy if he is killed off, right? It pretty much brings the whole narrative full circle if Shanks is killed off by Blackbeard. And then it creates even more of kind of like a parallel between Roger Luffy and then Blackbeard and his father. If these two characters have to go off against each other in final war, and if Luffy loses Shanks at the hands of Blackbeard, we already know that Luffy doesn't care for Blackbeard at all. Sure, we haven't seen their dynamic in a very long time, but we know that Luffy does not mess with Blackbeard like that. He never has. He never has since he first really met him. Like when they showed us that they have different tastes in the food that they were eating. We've known for years that Luffy and Blackbeard do not like each other. And if Blackbeard takes out Luffy's mentor figure, it's the person that he idolizes, the person that he looks up to the most in the world. If that's who Blackbeard takes out within the narrative, Luffy's going to go crazy. You will see a completely different side to Luffy that we have never seen before, right? This is going to be a completely new Luffy. We've seen a Luffy that liberated a country. We've seen a Luffy like who fights for his friends. We've never seen a Luffy that is fighting because he lost somebody that was this important to him. We've never seen Luffy fight with an anger, a complete and utter anger, an anger that is consuming his every soul and every fiber of his being. We've never seen that from Luffy. If we get that kind of Luffy fight against Blackbeard, that is going to be generational. The story potential with that fight, everything from the past to the future, everything colliding in this one fight, it would just be peak, man. Oh my, the more that I think about it, the more I want it to happen. Like, I've always kind of thought in the back of my mind Shanks could be killed by Blackbeard, but now because of all the stuff that we've learned and learning that Rocks is the father of Blackbeard, that just makes it feel all the more confirmed to me now that Blackbeard is going to kill Shanks. And man, like I said, man, it would just be such a good story choice if this is what they do, because I want to see a Luffy that's fighting no holds barred. I want to see a Luffy that is fighting with so much just anger because he's lost somebody this important to him. Because if you think about it, Luffy hasn't really had to deal with very big loss, like, well, he has with Ace, but Luffy was so traumatized by this that you never really got to see him fight with that anger. Sure, like, because Ace died in front of him, yes, and yes, he was traumatized, but you never saw him fight with that anger, and anger that drove him because that was his brother, and that was somebody that was with him through his entire life, so he couldn't really delve into that anger bag. If we see Shanks die and like Luffy's on the battlefield and all that, I don't think this is a moment where Luffy would be traumatized beyond belief. And you also got to remember he was tired at Marineford. I think that if Shanks dies in front of Luffy by Blackbeard, Luffy is going to channel something deep within him in anger. Like that, like we think Gear 5 is it for transformations. I think we could get something even bigger, maybe an evolution on Gear 5. Because I don't think it's done. But man, that like the more I think about this, man, the more I want it to happen so bad. But let me know what you guys think. How do you guys feel about the fact that Blackbeard is now the son of Rocks? And what do you guys think about a potential fight between Luffy and Blackbeard because of Blackbeard killing Shanks? I would love to hear what you guys think about all that. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I'm going to talk to you guys next time. Bye.